Okay, so today we have a real interesting one. Football, tactics and glory, or soccer, tactics and glory if you're in the US. Now I may live in America, but I'm using the UK name today. I can't bring myself to use soccer. But this one combines turn-based strategy with the beautiful game. Can this extremely unique take on the sports genre though do enough to attract an audience? Let's take a look. So gameplay here, as I say, incredibly unique. Turn-based strategy over a football pitch. This one actually originally released on the PC a couple of years back, and this is its chance to get a whole new audience as it joins the Switch family. Here, first off, let's talk the strategy part of the title. Each round consists of 3 actions each before you rotate to the opposition, and so on, keep on repeating. Being football, actions are relatively limited naturally. It pretty much consists of pass, move and shoot. Now moving only one player at a time is really where the strategy comes into play here. You can't just run away with one player against a team of 11. You've constantly got to monitor your formation, move in unison and approach it with some form of strategy. It's very true to the real game in that sense. We just don't normally need to think about that larger picture in the sports genre. A defensive player, for example, is never going to go on a breakaway attack, but they need to monitor their spot on the field, keep a close eye on all those players around them. It's seriously more complicated than you might expect from just looking at it. You know, when you play FIFA, when you play Pro Evo, you're never thinking about what the rest of the squad are doing because they're kind of following your actions with your single player. Now, while for the most part this strategy does work, there's other elements here at play, and that comes in the form of a player's statistics. The players each have 4 core ratings in accuracy, defense, control and passing. Unfortunately, what this means is the game can often be just infuriating as players with, poor passes miss from just a couple of feet away, or then an offence is on the attack against you and somehow with the lowest of low accuracy manages to get the ball halfway down the pitch perfectly to the feet of the intended player. For a strategy game, this inclusion for me was painful because it wasn't something I could control. It's basically a luck-based system in the game, and I don't like luck in a game that's constantly demanding that I make smart decisions. Outside of this, I will say I really did enjoy the turn-based strategy element. This whole system though just needs generally an overhaul, give us more clarity on how these statistics may impact our next decision. For me, a simple percentage of potential for success rate would completely solve this, because then I would know the risk I'm taking and I would be able to make an educated decision. I might have a 50% success rate of the next pass. To me, that would turn this from frustrating into a high-risk, high-reward scenario for me, the player. Now, outside of the turn-based strategy, we also get some, I'll say, light management simulation here. But when I say light, it's to the point that you're basically, just doing a few little things. You're putting players in training to improve their skills. You're periodically leveling them up as well as you win games. You'll find options to trade players here, as you increase your squad's ability, or let's say you need to retire someone. And then of course you'll also be able to check your team standings in the league and set any formations pre-match. It's far from deep, but it does enough to add a second layer to the whole experience. Now overall, for gameplay, I actually did enjoy my time with this game, but the random nature of actions really did get frustrating. A beautiful play down the field, a clean pass, only to completely miss my shot on goal when my player has some of the best accuracy available. It's a great idea gone wrong, unfortunately. They've missed the mark for me with those random implementations. Now, graphically speaking, there's no nice way to put this, one ugly ass game. Whether this was a stylistic choice go wrong, I'm not sure, but let's start with the players. They just look weird. That's the only way I can put it. Low detail, kind of blocky, slightly over the top head size. Nothing for me in this design works. And if anything, they just kind of look cheap and creepy. The player animations, they're okay. The movement looks decent enough, but don't expect any real variance. And then if you score, we get some pretty low detail celebrations. Now when it comes to the teams, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but we get a ton of teams here with varying kit designs, but don't expect any real world licensed players or team names. It's an understandable limitation, so there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to put that out there. And then environments, then they fare a little bit better than pretty much everything else. The pitch, there's not much you can do with that. It's a limitation of the sport naturally, but the surroundings are okay, from parks to stadiums. There's very little in the way of animations for them, but they do enough to establish a setting from, you know, the lowest of leagues up to the very highest. Last up, graphically then, we get menus, and they're simple enough to navigate. The management side of the game is by far the cleanest looking part of this whole experience, but it's just that, it's menus. It's actually pretty hard to make text look bad. It does what it needs to. So last up for today, we get audio, and it's not bad at all actually. We get the sounds of the football itself, we get the crowd in the game, you know, with general noise, and then of course like cheering for goals. On the menus, we get sounds and some, you know, pretty average music too, but it doesn't outstay its welcome, so I'm okay with it being there. It makes sense to put something in place. There's not too much for audio they could have done, and to be honest, as I said, it's absolutely fine. But one thing I did find really weird was the crowds. They're not dynamic to the location, meaning you might be playing in a park with like 10 people on a bench watching you, yet the crowd sounds like you have 10,000 pairs of eyes on you screaming and cheering. It's weird, they could have really done with mixing it up here and not just, you know, reusing that same audio asset over and over. It's lazy effort there for a sound field that for a large part was fine, but this one particular sound is such an important one too. It reinforces what size your team is. Overall, I think the best way to say this, Football Tactics and Glory, it has a good idea, it just kind of missed on the execution. The tactics, they work, but then the random nature pulls the whole experience down. The management elements, yeah, they're simplistic, but there's also very little they actually add to the whole package, the experience. The graphics, okay, I don't have much nice to say on the visuals, ugly ass game. But then audio, they have some great audio pieces, but they got lazy and reused elements that just don't make sense to the setting, as I said, with that park, but with a screaming crowd. Respect for trying something new, I'll say that much. There's nothing else out there like it, but at $40 in the US or like £36 in the UK, it's a pretty steep entry price for a game that feels like it should be considerably more on the budget side. If this was, you know, sub $20 or £20, I think I'd be a little bit more comfortable with what's on offer. This game, I'm trying to work out the audience though. Here you've got to be a sports fan as well as a turn-based strategy fan. It was already relatively niche joining a console with turn-based strategy elements, but throwing in a sport I feel like pulls it even further back if anything. You know, my friends who play football games, FIFA and PES, I can tell you now they're not typically strategy fans. So I'm curious to see how this one does. For me at least, as a football fan, I'm typically looking for a more faithful, fast-paced variation on the game. It's a great idea, as I say, but poorly executed in way too many areas. Today at this very high price point, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 10. It's below average, it's overpriced. Expect frustration with the random parts of the player rankings, and don't expect anything that's even close to good looking. If you see this one, as I said, $20, £20, sub that mark, add an extra point and make this an average 5 out of 10. I want to be fair to this one, but it just feels so unpolished overall. Also, as a 2-year-old PC game, I feel like we could by now be onto a sequel, or at least like a 1.5 build with improvements. Instead, we're just getting a title that's 2 years old, that's currently half the price on Steam for $20. I hope this does well on the Switch. With a bit of streamlining, this could be an entirely more superior experience, and I love seeing something bring a unique experience to the table. In my opinion, we're not seeing that enough right now, so I'm really disappointed this one kind of turned out this way. Okay, and that's it. What is your verdict on this one? I'd love to know. I'm curious to see how many Nintendo fans out there are looking for a turn-based sports simulator. It's definitely a cool, kind of a cool combo. Thanks for watching today. Hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll see you all on the next Gaming X.